Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. A question that has been nagging at the Fixed Ops Roundtable for a long time is why do dealers struggle with selling tires? We see tires in the news all the time, a lot of new things happening with tires and technology and the way that they're being retailed. So we thought today we'd bring together a team of experts, and they are on the panel right now. Please welcome David Boyle, who is the president and CEO of TRAXTION, Tully Williams from the Nilo Company, Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln, and Robert Miggs from Carter Myers Automotive's Valley Dealerships. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Ted, how you doing?
Well, Dave, I'm going to lead off with a question, and I'm going to come to the guys first. And Tully, I'm coming to you. We've talked about it before. Dave has provided some statistics. I've seen them here on the roundtable. He talked about them at the last event, that dealers maintain a very low, I think it's under 10% share of replacement tires in that market for the past 20 some years. And Tully, why do you think there has been little to no improvement in that area?
Well, I think one is that we have to believe that we're truly in the repeat and referral business, and repeat and referral business is all about tires, but it boils down to the advisor. And when you're sitting there being pushed to sell gross and sell hours and sell this and sell that, they forget to realize that tires are different from everything else. When you look at a tire, I'm going to spend $500, $1,000, $1,500 to $2,000, and how much money do I make? It turns out to be pennies. They don't get the big picture that if we don't sell the tires, they probably are not going to come back after the warranty time is up. So you want to make sure that we're selling tires, right? That's the reason why they're so important to retention, because retention is the holy grail for a dealership. So how do we do that? It's education and showing it, and then have fun selling tires, right? You know, the nice thing about it is TRAXTION has a great product that says, here, customer, here's the tire, right? You know, that's all we have to do, but you have to make it fun, and you have to get the culture of your store to believe in that we're in the repeat and referral business, the holy grail of retention.
Tully, your group is great on measuring KPIs. Behind you are those big, beautiful television screens that we see all the time. Tully, I got to ask you, are tires one of the metrics that you measure internally with your people?
Absolutely, we do. And, you know, and it's great that we look at examples where we have contests throughout the year. I try to have a writer contest, usually every 2 months and a month off. And with tires, at least are twice a year. And part of it also is going to be is it fun driving it? So I come up with an acronym of same day selling. It's really same visit selling. And when you look at the average store, you'd be happy to sell 10%. Leave out used cars because that's cheating, right? Used cars are going to have nothing to do with it. Talk about customer pay, red tires. When I look at a red tire event, I look at 1 or 4 tires. It's the event. And what we've done, if we've seen when we drive and get the excitement about tires, talk about the reasons why, we see an average of, I bet you most stores would be happy with 10%. We have people in the driveway, and I still think we suck, is 60% selling red tires. That's what we have seen because we talk about it. The store overall is probably at 40 to 50%, but we have people in that great zone, and we're just getting started, right? We're getting the excitement about tires, and you talk about it every day. In the back, we'll have at their store, who's selling the Matrix, who's selling those red tires, and talking about yellow tires, because some people buy yellow tires. God bless every one of them.
Ed, Tully oversees many rooftops. You've got one big, beautiful rooftop there in St. Augustine. You've got a lot of technicians, a lot of customers coming in. You've got a mobile operation, and I see that you recently added a mobile service van just for tires. We'll talk about that in a moment. But why do you think dealers have struggled with this for such a long time?
Dealers have struggled with them because they don't embrace them. Like Tully said a few minutes ago, they got to chase all these hours and whatever else. And in order to sell tires at a car dealership, you have to talk tires. And when you talk tires, you have to stock tires. And when you stock tires, you have to embrace tires. And when you do those 3 things, you will sell tires, because it's just like practice. The more you talk tires, the better you'll get and the more comfortable you'll feel about talking tires. And the best tires in the world are the ones you have in stock, always. The easiest tires to sell is the ones that's on that vehicle. So if you ask the right questions, you're going to land on something. But it can't be bring them in tomorrow. It can't bring them in next week. You have to have them in stock, but you have to talk tires and embrace tires and stock tires to be able to sell tires in the car dealership. And car dealers want to use that inventory space. You got multiple levels where there's issues. You got service advisors that feel like they don't make enough money on them. You got service management that feels like it takes up too much time in the shop to be able to do that when they could sell other work. You got the parts manager that doesn't want to stock them. So it's multi-layered of where all the issues come from. But when you break those things down, that's one of the key drivers to repeat and referral with retention. It's the wear item. We need tires when the customer is going out of warranty. And when they're going out of warranty, that's all the more reason why you want to keep them. And if you sell those three things, tires, batteries, and brakes, those three wear items, at the point of when they're going out of warranty, then that customer ends up somewhere else, and you have a less chance of starting that circle of life over with them.
Something unique to your operation. I alluded to the mobile units that you have on the road. Great job, Ed, with that. Why did you recently add the additional mobile van just for the tire service product? What's your thinking there?
Nothing's fun about a tire purchase. So if it can't be fun, let's make it convenient. And if we can make it convenient, then it takes that legwork out. So if a customer feels like, well, I can get a better price here or whatever else, I'm eliminating all the issues of them having to spend time and whatever else. I already have them in stock. We already put tires on. That's part of our business. Now I'm making it convenient. I'll come to you and put them on.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Love it. Robert Carter Myers, Automotive. A lot of rooftops, obviously, with Carter Myers. You've got a great background, a great facility. I've seen a lot of pictures on social media. Why do you think, Robert, dealers have struggled for so long?
I think the guys have really kind of pegged it big. It's not part of our culture. It's not something that we see as a tool to use. We see it as a deterrent. Most of the time, the advisors, like you said, are chasing a bunch of different numbers and metrics that they have to make. And one of the last things that they want to do is really try to push something on a tire sale to a customer that's a big dollar item. They're worried about the items that are going to kind of fit the bill for their hours per hour. They're worried about the items that are going to hit the bigger parts of what they're looking at, and it's really the bigger picture. They don't see it all the time, and if we start talking about it, we start bringing it to the forefront. I think that's when we're going to start seeing a change in it, and that's when you starting to sell tires and actually get in front of the customer and change the view and the concept of what you're doing within your dealership.
This is probably the first time, Dave, that I've heard the word culture come up with tires now several times already in this panel, and I think that's probably pretty unique. Dave, what's your take on it?
Well, I could sit back and not say anything at this point, Ted, but for sure, let me say this. Everything these guys said is spot on, okay? It's part of it, but I want to take just a minute and sort of peel back the onion a little bit and dive into the process, because the guys, all three of them touched on one area with the service advisor, but I want to come at a different approach for a half a second. Surprise, surprise, I've spent the last 10 years studying this, right? I mean, it's my business. So I've had to figure this out. I've had to figure out what is the real breakdown in this. And it actually starts with the process that dealers use in order to identify the opportunity. I talk to dealers about this every time I go and visit a dealer. And when I ask the question, I said, so what is your process for selling tires? I get the same answer everywhere I go. Well, it's part of the multi-point, right? We're going to get the car in and we're going to do our multi-point inspection and we're going to sell some tires off the multi-point inspection. No, you're not. Not very many, because of everything that some these guys have already said. When you think about this, what's a technician's motivation to find and sell a tire? Okay, there really isn't one. There's some likelihood that if he does, he's not going to get the work, depending on the type of tech that he is. He probably already inherently knows everything that Tully and Ed said in terms of, you send a tire up to a service advisor. What's the first thing they do? They look at the estimate from the multi-point and they go, oh, there's 3 or 4 other things on here that I make a whole lot more money on. So those tires are going to go on the back burner. And if I get any hint that this customer doesn't want to spend that money, the tires are not even going to be brought up. And here's the problem when I start talking with dealers about this, and it's not just service managers and GMs as well. You bring up these truths, quite frankly, and everybody says, no, not at my store, not at my store. We do it right. Well, the fact of the matter is, if everybody was doing it right, we wouldn't be at 8% market share in terms of the replacement market. And it starts with the guy at the helm believing in this. It was about a year ago, I was meeting with the head of parts and service for one of the large dealer groups. I don't want to name them because I don't want to embarrass them, but one of the large dealer groups. And the conversation came up around service advisor pay plans around tires. And he said to me, we don't pay service advisors to sell tires. I said, what do you mean you don't pay them? We don't pay at all. We just expect them to do it as part of the ticket. We don't make enough money on it to give them any commission of it. So we don't pay them. And I remember leaving that meeting thinking, well, now I know why the dealers aren't very good at this, right? I mean, the mindset in many cases and the culture that these guys are referring to starts with the guy in some cases whose name's on the side of the building, right? If you believe in the retention connection of that the tire has to not only the next service visit, but all the way through to the next vehicle purchase, if you believe in that, and you guys, Ed, you guys have heard me say this numerous times, if you really believed in the truth, hell, you'd give them away. You don't need to, but you give them away because they are that powerful in terms of what they can do for your overall business. And, I hope it doesn't take EVs and things like that to finally get people to wake up to this. But it starts with the culture, as the guys have said, but it's about the process. It's about the people and the process. And if you think that the multi-point inspection and your service advisor selling tires off of multi-point inspection is going to get you any better than what you've got today, that's your first mistake.
And I got to agree with what David's saying, because by the time it gets to the technician, we've already lost a great opportunity. Meeting the advisor is the first one to look at the car with the customer. They've got that opportunity. And let's talk about that, starting the process earlier.
Well, like I said, you have to talk tires, and in order to talk them, it has to be in every part of the process. It's got to be at write-up. It's got to be part of what the technician does. It's got to be ongoing. You got to have a good follow-up when it's a yellow tire, because like Tully said, some will buy it yellow, but not everybody. But there's our start. But we also want to talk about them when they're green. We got to sell the green each and every time as well, so that when you hit them the first time, there doesn't need anything. The second time doesn't need, but it gets to a point to where that builds trust along the way. Okay, well, I've been good for so long. How much more time do I have left in them? Now you just planted the seed. And Dave will tell you, the first person that talks tires to a customer gets the tire sale, gets the tire business. Whether
sell them when they don't need them.
Exactly.
That's the best time to sell them. And guys, we're not very good at that, are we? We're not very good at that. We are really good at selling stuff when it's needed. But we're not very good at selling stuff I'm putting my advisor hat on. When there's nothing in it today for me, I'm not really good at that, am I?
Well, sometimes I have an advisor who will tell me that they didn't want to buy tires. They don't want to buy tires from a car dealer. They don't want to do this. Well, the reality is we didn't build that level of trust, because what they told us was, we don't want to buy tires from you. Mm-hmm. One, because I think it's too pricey. I think it's whatever. We didn't overcome the obstacle. We didn't even find out what the obstacle is to have the opportunity to overcome it. But ultimately, my reply back to them is, there's not vehicles sitting on the side of the road with tires blown out on them. They got them somewhere. So we have to overcome those obstacles, because that's our retention tool. And retention is the best conquest. And if I can retain them, that's our opportunity to do it. If I can retain them, then I can spend a lot less money on conquesting. And then we can go back to what Dave said about, you could buy them. Well, the money that we spend to conquest a customer, you certainly could buy somebody a set of tires.
Yeah.
And I saw something recently in the last week, I believe it was online with Automotive News, that there is a retailer popping up now selling just tires and going after that dealer market, where the customer can buy them not by going to the dealership, by going to this third-party source. And those are popping up. And if you think if you had to pinpoint it, you mentioned stocking the tire, believing in the tires. If there's something that we could do differently that would have the biggest impact on performance, Ed, what do you think that would be?
You have to talk tires, and you have to stock tires. You can't sell what you don't have, because it's all about convenience. So you have to make the commitment to bring them in. Then you have to make the commitment to train your staff on how to overcome those obstacles, and to open that conversation, and to sell the green, then prepare for the yellow, and then deliver when it's time to. When you do those things, you don't lose the customer, and you build a customer for life. And not only do you sell tires, but you sell everything else that you tell them they need, because you've sold the green each and every time, and you build a level of trust with them.
Robert, a great point, I think, that Ed just made. And Robert, going back to David's earlier point, we don't do a very good job at all of selling the tires when they are not yet quite needed, like in the yellow. 2.5 years ago, just before things changed in our entire world, the vehicle I was driving had yellow tires. And I went into the dealer and I bought new tires. And the advisor asked me why I was buying the tires. I didn't need them yet. So, Robert, I was shocked that I got that response. Robert, what do you think? What is something, and true story, Robert, what do you think that we need to do and need to do differently?
I think one of the things, and I preach it to my advisors, and I try to tell them all the time, is we got to stop thinking the money is ours. It's not our dollar that we're spending, it's the customer's dollar. And you'll be surprised when you bring it to the forefront and you put in front of the customer what they feel is important, what they have money for, and what they can afford on their goal. The second we start dictating how we're going to determine what the customer wants and what they can afford and what they can't afford, we've lost it right there. So we're already out of it. And to everybody's point on here, and kind of steal a little bit from Tully here, because I'm sure you're going to touch on it, but we got to start up at the front. We got to start with F&I. We got to start with sales. They got to promote the fact that we do more than just fix the vehicle when it breaks under warranty. We offer the ability to maintain it. We offer the ability to do tires and everything before it even gets to the point that they do need them. So, even well before the green, we got to instill this in them that we can take care of them.
And Ted, what that advisor was telling you is that not only did he not want to sell you tires, he doesn't want to sell anybody tires. He doesn't want to do tires. So he's trying to talk you out of that sale. Exactly. And that happens over and over and over again in our service drives.
And you want to know something? Magnify that by how many dealerships, how many advisors. Ed, spot on with that. And Robert, to your points, the fact that we decide, or mentally the advisor's deciding what the customer can and can't afford. Robert, you're spot on with that. We see that every day, and Robert, that's a big concern. And you're leading. Again, I've seen the pictures. How many advisors? How many techs do you oversee, Robert?
So we have the store I'm at right now. We have 4 advisors, ranging from Express, main shop, and fleet, and then we also have. Total with the Express technicians, we got around 12 technicians in the shop right now.
Okay. What do you think we need to do differently, to install that mindset, that thinking, that it's not our dollar to spend?
For us and everything, I mean, everybody would probably agree here. We got to start on the lane. We got to present the tires and really start at the green. We got to sell the green, build a relationship, and get the customer to understand that we can provide all the things that the outside world has to it. there's really it's not some magic trick that we got to pull here. It's simple, it's a simple process. We just followed through with it and getting the customer to understand where we come from and what we can provide.
Tully, I like what Robert said about starting real early, even in the F&I process. You share an office with the F&I director for the group. You sit across from each other. We've talked about bringing sales and service, F&I together. Starting earlier, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's important. I mean, I think that, if we talk about the circle of life, sales sells the first car and fix sells the rest of the cars to the friends and family, is that, we have to make sure that we are one store. And there's still a lot of places out there, the sales and service just don't talk to each other, which I think is asinine. And I think that, we have to believe that we're all here, because without service, you're not going to get another customer. You can only sell one time so many times. But I think that, Robert and Ed both brought up starting early in the service drive. To me, that's the key issue here, is that, are you having those great communications on green tires? Oh my God, I said it out loud, green tires. So the nice thing about it is they drive over, they get a text. We said, hey, you got a text on the tires. Then what happens? The technician does a what? A video of the tires when they're green, yellow, or red. Every time they come in, did you get your text? Did you get your video of your tires? And 2, if it needs yellow tires and red tires, we're going to talk about that. But the point of it is that it has to be every time. We've done a good job now. We do an inspection on every car. Are we doing a video on every car? Is your process to talk about tires and brakes and maintenance? That's the key for retention.
David, these are bread and butter things.
Yeah, well, they are, but it's not, we're not putting a man on the moon here, Ted. We're selling tires to people. I mean, it's not hard. It's just something we have to do. the guys, all of them have said, selling the green and my comment was selling them when they don't need them. If you think about, who's the dealer's competitor when it comes to this? And you've heard me say this in other presentations, the dealers sell 100% of the cars, but they have 8% of the share of tire replacement. The big O's and the discount tires and the tire shops sell none of the cars, and they have 60% of the tires because that's the business that they're in. And if you ask me the question, Ted, of what's the one thing that we can do, the one biggest thing that I believe every dealer can do that we're not, and it's something we're not taking advantage of. The dealer has a massive advantage, and that's the fact that you did sell them the car. So you have this period, 3-year period, where what? You own them. They're coming back to you for everything. We talk about the fact that it's hard to educate them that we're better and they can sell cheaper. No, it's not. You have 3 years to do it. You have 3 years uninterrupted where they're coming back to you for everything. And it's if you start day one and say, we are your tire shop. This is why you want to come to us and not those guys. Those guys don't understand your car. Okay, we do. We understand that the tire today is actually part of the vehicle's suspension. It's engineered into the suspension. If you put a tire with a different sidewall flex or a different speed rating or whatever, it's going to completely change the handling and ride characteristics of your car. I hear this every day. The Highline manufacturers freak out over this, Ted, because it's a massive hit to their brand loyalty. Somebody's driving a brand new Lexus and, they gets to be 30, 40,000 miles. They put a set of tires on it. And all of a sudden, the thing doesn't ride like it did anymore. And they blame the car. It's not the car. It's the tires they put on at Walmart. Okay, they put a set of tires on at Walmart that are round and black and the right size, but they're not the right tire for the car. The dealer knows what's the right tire for that car. And we're also very competitively priced. When I go and talk to our customers, one of the things I spend a lot of time on is how are you priced? In fact, in some cases, we're underselling, what we could be. There's a misconception out there. We've got 3 years where we've got direct access to this consumer to educate them every time they come in. But what do? We don't do anything. We don't talk tires. We don't do the stuff that Tully said, that Ted's been saying, Robert's saying. We don't do any of that until when? Until 35,000 miles and they need a set of tires. Then all of a sudden we say, oh, by the way, you need tires. And we've completely missed that opportunity. If there's one thing the dealers should start doing tomorrow, it's from the delivery to the service orientation to the very first service visit. Every visit, there needs to be some conversation about tires. If you do that, there'll be no reason for the customer to go anywhere elsewhere but back to you when this time comes.
David, how do we help create a conversation about tires? I see a lot of things happening on service lanes right now. I see a lot of talk, a lot of technology about looking at the vehicle earlier. I think that what you do at Traction fits right in to this conversation. And it's now because you've taken technology to the next level to be able to look at that tire a lot earlier and a lot more often with a consumer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, all we did was, and I say all, if my technology guys heard me just say that, they'd probably smack me in the head. But all we did was look at a process problem and try to find a better solution for it, right? And in the scenario where we talked about earlier in terms of technician motivation and service advisor motivation, we looked at this and we said, how can we be successful even if we have an individual that's not motivated to do the right thing? How can we help them be better at their job? We're not getting rid of the service advisor. We're not taking the technician out of the equation. We're providing them a tool that helps them be better at their job, whether they really want to or not, because this is in the best interest of the dealer and the customer. This isn't just about the service advisor or the technician. This is much bigger than that. And, and you've heard me say this before, Ted, when it comes to technology companies, and I love all of my fellow vendors out there, but sometimes we create products just for the sake of creating something to sell. In the end of the day, if what you're providing to the dealer doesn't actually do two things, one, it's got to make a better process and it's got to make people's lives better. Okay. If we can do those two things as a vendor, we've won. All right. And when we started this company, that was our mission. We said, What can we do to improve this process, and how can we make it easier for the technicians and the service advisors? Listen, I wrote service back in the day, and I had a service manager that wanted me to stick every tire in Toronto, Canada, okay, in the winter with a white shirt and a tie on. Okay, that's not easy. None of us would want to do that either. Crawling around in the wet service drive trying to stick the inside tread on a rear tire, on a car is not an easy thing to do. It's no wonder we don't do it consistently, because it's not easy to do. So, to me, it's about, like I said, making the process better and making it easier for our associates and our staff to be successful.
Let's talk a little bit about EVs. Les Silver did a segment on the last Fixed Ops Roundtable, how EVs are going to affect service and parts operations. Tully, you're in California. 1 out of 5, maybe 1 out of 4 vehicles is an EV. Ed, you're not quite there yet, but I think Florida is second in the running, and you're selling a lot of EVs. And Tully, you've told us that all the EVs you can get, you can sell. So there's been a lot of talk, and Robert, about the tires, okay? And tires being the vehicle is heavier. Tully, what's your feeling on tires? And, we're not going to have that trigger anymore with the oil change, being that reason for the customer to come in.
I think David said it right. When we hit 35,000 miles of red tires and we're trying to sell it for the very first time, when you have an EV car, you have very expensive repairs or technology repairs, and then you have very little maintenance repairs. And the issue we're going to be talking about is bringing them in for tire rotations. I'll say it out loud again. We're bringing them in for tire rotations and cabin filter replacements. That is going to be the issue. And if you're not in the tire business, you're not going to be in the EV business. And the issue is going to be is that if you're not starting today, before EVs take over, right? We've been blessed that we sell a lot of EVs. We're in the tire business, kind of. And I'm still upset that we're sold at 60%. This one guy, the store overall is at 40, and I still think we have a lot of room for improvement, because we cannot afford not to sell tires to EV customers. I don't think we can afford not to sell them to ICE cars either. But the issue is going to be is that you've got to get the culture now before it becomes too late. Because if you're selling EVs and you think about, I think I should start selling some tires now. I'm going to stack 4 of them in a pile and put a little blankie over them. That ain't going to sell tires, my good friend. That's not going to work. You got to talk about it when they come in. You got to talk about it on the tech video, and you got to talk about it when they leave. And we need technology to help us with that. And that's where David with TRAXTION helps us with. We have that great piece for the customer to see. That's not the whole answer. The answer is your store believe in it. And it starts with the person's name that's on the building, believes in tires, because he believes in retention. I can guarantee you 100%.
Amen to that.
Amen. Ed, coming to you, because we've talked about those service intervals not being based so much now anymore on the mileage, but on the time, and the tire being integral to that.
Well, I want to touch on one thing that Tully was saying there, having the rotations and cabin air filters. Another thing that we need to add to BEVs is alignments, because it's going to be that much more important for these things to be aligned straight, because there's really 4 items outside of an alignment that wears a tire out. That's the weight of the vehicle, that's acceleration, it's braking, and it's cornering. Well, these things check 2 of those boxes right from the beginning. They accelerate very hard. They're heavier. And usually when you're accelerating hard, you're braking harder and cornering harder, because you're playing. So it by nature, it's going to check 2 of the boxes for faster wear, but in most cases, it's going to check all 4 boxes. And it's our opportunity to make sure that we talk those items, because the last thing we need to do is have the husband in the car with the wife, and they went out to dinner on Saturday night or going to church on Sunday morning, and the wheels left turned to the right when they pull into a parking spot, and he sees the cords hanging out. That's when they show up at Walmart and put the wrong tires on it. That's because we failed and never told them about it. And it's that much more important for us to do that with EVs. And then for us, we're all in with the tire van, because I can go straight to an EV and take care of it there.
Hey, Ed, speaking of playing, that I've got a vintage Corvette that I love. And I'm so used to, I was at a car show last weekend, and I'm so used to taking that car out, and like clockwork, I'll pull up to a stoplight and there'll be some kid in a 5-liter Mustang sitting beside me, right? Last weekend, It was about a 50-year-old guy in a Tesla. And I'm going to tell you something, he smoked me. All right. 700 horsepower and he smoked me. All right. But I giggled when you said that because you see these middle-aged guys driving these things like they're slot car race cars or something. And it does beat the crap out of the tire for sure.
Absolutely. And it's our opportunity to bring them back. We got to retain them. And it's going to be harder to retain that BEV customer if we don't talk those elements. So we have to.
Yep.
Robert, Bob Tasca was on the show last month. And as you know, he's a race car driver and, of course, a Ford dealer as well, and many other brands while we're at it. But he's also got a personal EV that he drives. And he told me that EV, he will never go back, his personal vehicle, to driving a combustion engine, and because that's got all the ingredients that he's looking for. It's got the acceleration. It's got all the things you said. Robert, what do you think as we come into this EV era with the tires being a focal point?
The realization that we have to sit back and look at is when everything changes over. We're here discussing the difference between ICE vehicles and EVs. The realization is when a customer looks at a tire sale, the tire store down the street's always sold tires. So our competition has years above us, and we're just trying to play catch up at this point in time. So, like these guys have all said on here on this panel tonight, it's just got to be something that we're promoting, we're talking about, and we're letting people know, because at the end of the day, everybody's got that tire guy. They got that guy that they're going to get their tires from, and we're usually not on that list. So we got to start talking about it now.
Dave, you've got some amazing software. Talk to us a little bit about that. There's been a lot of technology in the marketplace for many, many years, that have helped with things like alignments and so on. But you recently have introduced some new product lines. Congratulations. And by the way, I see TRAXTION everywhere. I'm looking like all I see is TRAXTION, Tully. Okay, so something has changed, and you've really stepped up your game. Talk to us about what you're doing.
Well, we're trying to thank you for that. But by the way, we're trying to get the word out. It's been it's taken a lot longer, quite frankly, to get the word out than I thought it would, because it's we sit here, we're a bunch of enlightened guys when it comes to this conversation, clearly, and we. I wish all my customers were like these three guys, to be honest with you. It would be a lot easier in my life, but unfortunately a lot of them aren't still, and we it's a slug. So the thing that you're referring to that we did most recently, and the product we have hasn't changed essentially in what it does. We measure a tire tread depth, we measure an alignment, we text the results right to the consumer, we send it to the service advisor, so the two of those collide in a conversation that was meant to happen. The customer's already sort of engaged, and I like to use the term tenderized, because they've already kind of seen it, and they know it changes the dynamic of the conversation between the advisor. Advisor can't hide from it when the customer's already got the report on their iPhone and whatnot. So we've been doing that for a while now, but I think probably the biggest thing that we've done recently is we've changed our entire business model from basically a CapEx equipment model to an OpEx sort of monthly fee model to try to make this more affordable. One of the problems that we started this industry, my company started this industry. It's almost 12 years ago now. It's been that long, but we didn't have any competitors when we started, and now we got a bunch, and that's a good thing. I think competition's good and whatnot. But about a year ago, I saw something I didn't like, and that was the price of these things was going in the wrong direction. They were getting more and more and more and more expensive. And I remember sitting down with my development team, and I said, we got to go in the other direction. Okay, we've got to make this more affordable, because here's the problem: if you don't, I see this every time I go visit a dealers with some of my competitors' products. You got a big, huge operation like the one that Ed's got down there, and you've got like four or five inbound service lanes in his Ford store, and they'll have one lane covered with this equipment. Well, that doesn't get it done. At very best, you're going to capture a quarter of your opportunity, or you've got an enviable task of trying to put up cones every morning to funnel everybody through one lane, which creates nothing but a bottleneck. And we basically sat down and said, look, the way that we need to, and again, with the mindset of doing the right thing by our customers in the process, if we're going to expect 100% coverage, we need to make this affordable so that every dealer can put one in every lane. And we did that by basically taking the equipment out of the equation. We basically said, much similar to a cell phone model, we're going to loan you the equipment, if you will, and we're going to charge you for software. And that's been a big win for us, Ted. As you know, we've our business is quadrupled since we started this endeavor. And I'm pleased for the business, but I'm more pleased for what we're trying to accomplish. Right? I mean, I believe, and maybe, and I don't believe this is just me trying to hawk my product when I say this. I believe that if dealers don't get really good at this, there's repercussions from this that we don't even know yet that are going to be bad. And dealers just need to realize that tires are going to become an increasing part of their overall portfolio. And if they don't get good at it, you mentioned EVs, and I know we're running out of time here, but I'm going to leave you with one statistic. This was a data from Tesla, by the way, 4,000 mile Tesla. So a high mileage test mule. Okay. I wrote this down. I want to get this right. 31 service visits over 400,000 miles. 23 of the 31 service visits were tire related. So if you're not in the tire business, when EVs hit, you better, or they're all you're going to do is be lining other guys' pockets.
Dave, one last thing. Tully, I have to ask him about affordability. Dave, I'm not asking you for any numbers, but I got to say that there's a dealer friend in the Northeast of mine. You know who it is. He has been, over many, many years accustomed to spending big dollars, okay, up front to have a lot of equipment in his service drives. And he learned about how affordable your product is at Traction. I think a lot of folks don't know how easy it is to get Traction on their service drives. Without giving away too much, Dave, just tell us a little bit about that, because that's new and that's huge, and it was eye-opening to me.
Well, like I said, essentially there is no big upfront CapEx equipment expenditure. We come in, we install it, and we train your people live on site. We charge a relatively nominal fee for that. It's around $2,000. And then based on the size of your store, we charge you for software, not unlike what you would pay for Xtime or any of the other software vendors out there. And the average dealer is around $1,600 a month. And most of our dealers tell us that, and that's average. Some are paying more than that. Obviously, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but some are paying more, some are paying, less. But the one thing that most of our dealers tell us, is that it pays for itself after about the third day of the month. And that's I love to hear that, because that's a good business for us to be in. Right. I mean, I don't want to be that product that, when times get tough, the dealers got their controller looking down the expense side and saying, okay, what can we cut? I don't want to be that product. I don't want to be that guy that's viewed as a nice to have, that's expensive, but a nice to have. I believe this needs to be an essential tool in every dealer. And we want to do our part in trying to create that environment.
And I saw that David Boyle, maybe a few months back, was at your dealership. What was he doing down there? Did he buy a vehicle and drive it back? Because you're in Florida, he's in Texas. Ed, what was going on there?
It is easy to say that Dave and I are customers of each other.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. And but yes, Dave bought a vehicle from us. We're putting his equipment in. We've been on the wait list to get on there, and I think that we're right around the corner from that happening. And we're just going to continue to enhance what we do with having his equipment on in our buildings.
Super stuff.
And it was a wonderful experience, by the way. I bought a lot of cars over the years. It was without a doubt, the best experience I've had. And my wife Kathy went with me, and we're driving away. We were actually meeting, Ed and his lady for dinner. We're driving away. She said, "My God, that was too easy." She said, I wish, she said, "Is that just because you know Ed?" And I said, "No, that's just because this is Ed's dealership. He makes it easy." I think I spent a total of about maybe 30 minutes in the dealership, and I was driving away with a new F-150. So, it was, again, there's that easy word, right? He made it very frictionless, very painless for me to come in and get a deal done, and he gave me a great deal. So it was a no-brainer to drive halfway across the country and patronize my friends. So,
yep. Thanks for that, Dave.
You got it.
And I think that speaks volumes, and I'll leave it there today because I think all the gentlemen on the screen here today make it easy, including David Boyle, the president and CEO of TRAXTION, who has refined that technology, amazing, way ahead of what anybody has out there. Please speak to David about that. His email is on the screen, dboyle@traction.com, and of course the website is there. I want to thank Tully Williams. I want to thank Robert Miggs. I want to thank Ed Roberts and Dave Boyle for being here on the TRAXTION panel. The TRAXTION panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you guys.